Good morning, everyone. This is Nicole Tester Boston, the Deputy Director here at FIATech, and just wanted to welcome all of you for joining us this morning to hear a little bit about SpecWave, the world's first spec modeling system. Before we get started, I wanted to do a brief overview of the Gotowebinar system for those of you who may not have used the system before. That toolbar you see on your screen is unique to you. You can minimize it by clicking on that orange arrow at the top left corner. That will minimize it. At any time, if you need to use it, you can obviously bring it back up on your screen by clicking the arrow again. You'll also notice that you're on a defaulted mute setting due to the large number of individuals on the call today. However, we do encourage your participation and your comments and your feedback. And you can do that by typing those in using the Questions tab on that toolbar. Those will go directly to me, and if time permits at the end of the session, I will moderate the Q&A session with Leon and get those questions answered. If we do run out of time, we'll follow up with you directly after the presentation. Lastly, we are recording the webinar, and we will be posting both the audio and the slides at fiatech.org website. Give us a day or two to get that posted and up online, but you will then be able to get a copy and share it with others. So, with that, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker today, Leon Gorbati. I should also mention his company, TEEC, is a FIATech member. Leon is the founder and CEO of the company with over 20 years of experience in the areas of mechanical and software engineering. He is a rotating machinery specialist specializing in turbo machinery and a software developer specializing in subject matter-driven application development. Mr. Gorbati founded TEEC with a vision for improved compliance to engineering specifications. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh and an executive MS degree in management of technology from the University of Pennsylvania and the Wharton Business School. So with that, I want to thank you very much, Leon, for joining us today and telling us a little bit about the work you're doing. And also, I should mention some of this work is also incorporated in an ongoing FIATech project on spec automation. So if you or your company are a FIATech member and like what you hear, by all means, please let us know so we can get you involved in the project. Leon?
Thank you, Nicole. Do a quick introduction. As Nicole had mentioned, I am a mechanical engineer. I'm also a software engineer. And then I also worked as an engineering contractor. And when I first got into engineering contracting, I witnessed a situation where we were designing a system out in the Adriatic Sea. And the system was being designed in Houston, Texas. And fairly late in the project, there was a requirement that came down that European Union specifications should be considered for impact. And so I'd witnessed the team of about 200 engineers spending several months trying to compare analogous specifications and to see what impact a certain set might have. And the amount of time and effort that went into this, it was simply unbelievable. Just recently coming out of the software industry, I looked at this and I said, you know, code standards and engineering specifications almost always have a very typical hierarchical paragraph format. And that maps directly to XML, the most ubiquitous language in the technology industry today. And if you only perform that mapping, that type of comparison can be performed by the computer. And so the concept of spec automation was born. It later actually became a FIATech project. And later, from several organizations that were involved in the project, the whole thing started moving towards productization, and that's how the company was born. So it's kind of an interesting story that the FIATech project came first and the business came after. But here we are, the Engineering Essentials Company. We have quite an exciting product that I'm going to introduce to you today, talk a little bit about the world of specifications. I have a PowerPoint presentation that should last about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll also do a quick product demonstration. Nicole, is the audio and video okay?
Yeah, everything's working well. Thank you.
Great. So we look at engineering specifications as the most important documents, and it is a high time that they had a dedicated system. we're trying to enable professional engineers and architects to be just that, engineers and architects, and not professional editors. And we have created a product that's essentially industry agnostic. It's been shown to be applicable to architecture and construction, oil, gas, power, and chemical, that is the plant industry, and even the regulated industries. And we're also paying a lot of attention to the workflows in procurement and quality assurance, as I'll be describing in the upcoming slides. So what is SpecWave? First of all, SpecWave is a fully featured word processing application. We have spell checking, we have embedded objects, images, everything that you would expect. We also have a very rigid and well-structured data representation that allows interoperability and connectivity to other applications, also the ability to create plugins and customizations. We have an API. It's really quite very robust. However, at the same time, it's portable. It is not built on a relational database. It is file-based. And my last slide, I will show you a little bit more about that, and I'll also demonstrate how that works in the application. We essentially feature the power and the performance typical of a relational database while remaining independent, and therefore the IT footprint is much smaller, and we work well with existing database systems such as enterprise management and document management. One of the key things that we're focused on is to eliminate the chaos and variability that unfortunately today is prevalent in the iteration of code standards and engineering specifications. General purpose word processing tools are too rich for the needs of these documents, while these documents need to be structured, secure, well formatted, and this is not what goes on in the industry today, and we have developed a solution. A couple of terms that we're trying to sort of brand and get some recognition for. One is spec modeling. We say that this introduces engineering rigor to engineering specifications, similar to what computer-aided design once did to engineering drawings. We have templates that enforce styles and formats and structure. These are administrative tools, and then later on projects, individuals that are working day-to-day on engineering specifications cannot break the documents. We also have tags, and we have support for several industry workflows. And the templates themselves, which I will demonstrate in the product, also allow you to seed a new specification with outline body content. But we also support the full migration of existing documents into the SpecX format, which I'll be talking about in just a little bit. And then we have properties and attributes, view filters, schedules, links, and various other usability and automation features in the product. Another term we're trying to introduce is spec-driven process. Recognizing the specifications are the most important documents in a plant, there's a lot of information in those documents that essentially drives other workflows. For example, procurement, quality assurance. When you go to inspect something, you have to verify that it complies to engineering specifications. In the past, these have all been standalone documents, standalone checklists, standalone workflows. Frequently, the specs were too voluminous and they weren't being referenced where they should. We have created a solution where you can basically drive business processes directly off of the engineering specifications. It makes it very, very robust and very efficient to create just the right information, just in time, and it being very, very accurate. Specs are by definition written to be exchanged. There is very little that begs standardization and interoperability as do engineering specifications. A few other features that we have just due to the XML model and the attribution of the metadata is the ability to create multipurpose documents. This is very important and very useful and very typical. It talks about reducing duplication of content. It is very frequent that organizations will have multiple similar documents that have maybe proverbial 80% same content and 20% different. Maybe it's site-specific, maybe it's office specific, maybe it's building type specific, hospital versus university, or whatever it might be. We've created a general purpose model for including multiple purposes all in the same document, making it very efficient for the person responsible for the document to manage the master document, and allowing the master document to be decomposed into its various purposes in a very simple way. And again, this could be used for geographical variants, organizational variants, different offices, different business units. Allows you to maintain fewer similar documents. Very powerful and very much needed. There are a few workflows that are similar in multiple industries. You know, the concept of submittals in the plant industry, they called it vendor data information requirements, quality assurance and inspection, compliance with specifications, bills of materials. This happens in practically every engineering industry and every engineering workflow. And in SpecWave, we've actually created some native support for these types of workflows, and also the extensibility, the ability to create additional workflows that are spec-driven processes being driven off of specifications. We're also working on several computer-aided design and building information modeling integration, and we are actually delivering some document management system integrations. But generally speaking, we should work with any document management system right out of the box, because at the end of the day, we're still file-based, as I'll talk about momentarily. One question that quickly comes up is that, you know, it sounds like to make the specs intelligent, you have to think and tag, and that costs money and overhead. It absolutely does. If you do that, you then reap the benefits on multiple projects. However, we also allow you to accumulate tags incrementally, and you can get them back into the master document when you're doing archiving, so you don't have to incur the overhead right up front. And there's also some automated tagging that we can do during migration. We also do track changes, as people would expect. However, we can also take named snapshots of documents, which we keep in the same file. You don't have multiple files on disk to keep track of, and you can do a colorized side-by-side comparison of different snapshots. So typically you would use snapshots for maybe 30% complete, 60% complete, 90% complete, or front-end design 1, front-end design 2, preliminary design. Whatever the milestones may be that these documents go through, you can take snapshots. If they're undergoing a subject matter expert approval cycle, you can take snapshots along the various nodes in the workflow. And so on. Again, another very powerful feature for history and comparability of documents. So at the end of the day, we feature the ultimate toolkit for the administration and organization of engineering specifications. It starts with templates, and template enforcement. We also feature ease of use, ease of training. We try to take away some of the variability that people that are not professional word processing technologists don't need, and just try to focus on that which you need for architectural and engineering specifications. We also completely separate content from presentation, which gives us the ability to load hundreds, even thousands of files and do an advanced search based on either content or tags and combinations thereof, thereby essentially achieving the capabilities and performance of a database without requiring one. It's a very powerful invention in that regard. How do you get started? Well, we're talking to very few organizations that are using our toolkit in the proverbial blank sheet of paper. Organizations have decades of engineering specifications. We are typically dealing with hundreds and thousands of documents. And we have created a very structured, intelligent, and secure migration process that converts existing documents, typically from a word processing environment, into the SpecX and SpecWave environment. And we also do a validation guarantee, make sure that we don't drop not a single character, not a single white space, so that we recognize that these are very important documents. So that's typically we will get people started by giving us some sample content, and we will demonstrate the migration process. We will talk about what tags and what workflows they want to support. Typically, you know, the bad news is that we usually end up doing a little bit of tweaking for every account. But the reason we do that is because the variability in which people do engineering specifications is just scary. And the notion that we're going to try, and this is a big part of the FIATEC specification automation project, that we're going to try to move towards somewhat of a standardized way of doing that, we believe is a very good thing. So talk a little bit about SpecX. SpecX is the actual file format that we use. It is completely open, based on international standards. In fact, as an organization that was born out of consortia, we are essentially built on open standards and interoperability principles. What we have actually done is extend the OPC, which is the same file format as the Microsoft Office applications are, but we've created some specialized parts and components that are optimized for engineering specifications, and we've just recently published the XML schemas for those, and we're going to be working on a developer toolkit so that all of this is very open and very usable by the community. So this is my last slide. I'm going to kick into the product demonstration at this point. Nicole, everything still okay with video and audio?
Yes, looks good. Thanks, Leon.
Okay. Okay, so this is SpecWave. Like I mentioned, it is, for all intents and purposes, a fully featured modern-day word processing or document processing application. However, everything is objectized explicitly. This is an object. We draw a boundary around it. It has its own metadata that keeps history and audit trail, who created it, when it was modified. The document map itself is actually not a view, but that is the explicit structure of the underlying XML. There's a one-to-one relationship, so that every paragraph, every piece of content becomes an object. We call it a contiguous engineering object. It has a globally unique identifier. It makes it linkable. If you export documents, the history trail is there. So it's really a step up in that regard from what is not really word processing applications, but character processing applications. And we feel that engineering paragraphs, engineering objects should be just that. They should be engineering paragraphs and engineering objects. This particular demonstration document is demonstrating multi-purposing in a few regards. You can see that we're actually doing multi-language specifications, so that organizations that maintain multi-language specifications could have a very convenient translation kit and the ability to maintain master documents that contain all of the languages all at once. And we support various other purposes, and the purposes are user-defined. None of this is built into the product. Basically, the administrator who creates a template, and I do have a template loaded, I'll show that momentarily, decides what workflows, what purposes, how are the documents going to be administered, and he or she can set it up, and then users and projects can then basically have a very efficient way of working with these documents. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is basically setting view filters. We edit by filtering, not by deletion, so that you don't lose anything. So if you go ahead and select your disposition, say this document is multi-purposed among these multiple business groups, and right now I'm working on a project in water and wastewater of the multiple languages that my organization supports. We're now going to use American English. There might be some other multi-purposes. Master format happens to be a CSI thing, and this particular document supports several purposes, so we can select one of these purposes. We can say that this project is of a certain type, and again, you define the types of projects that are applicable to your organization and your industry. We're going to say hide all notes to specifier. Presumably there are some internal use only notes in this document. This document actually happens to multi-purpose on imperial and metric units. Let's say we got metric units, and you go and you say apply. And then one thing that we do is we calculate the logical exclusion of what is currently out of context. We show it to you, but then if you turn off show exclusions, then the document will renumber, and all of the inapplicable content will disappear. And at this point, you could export to either PDF, Microsoft Word file, or another SpecX file if you really wanted the stuff that's out of context stripped out. And in some cases you might, because again, in the background it's all open XML, so just because you hid all of the secret notes doesn't mean that they're not in the file. If you export at this point, then the resultant SpecX file will physically not have that information. So you really have the option to use this as you need to. So just quickly showing, a little bit about the workflows. we can go into the workflow of inspection schedule, for example. And this is the inspection schedule that is associated with this document. The important thing to note about this is that this is not created by copy and paste. This is not a separate document. This is not an annex. This is actually metadata that is scraped off of the engineering paragraphs themselves that are associated with those paragraphs. It makes it very efficient to write inspection requirements while you're writing the actual requirement itself. And furthermore, if the document is further multi-purposed and some content is out of purpose, then the inspection requirements, vendor data information requirements, and whatever else that paragraph would have contributed automatically disappears. So you don't have stale entries sitting around. It makes it very, very efficient to create various schedules and documents that are further used in procurement to actually perform inspection, get drawings, and so on. So this is quickly the concept of both workflows and multipurposing. Here I have one tab that's got 30 documents loaded. As I mentioned, we could load hundreds, even thousands of documents. And so this allows you to work with an entire specification library or an entire set of project documents. And we also have advanced search. So for example, if I do a search for ASTM, then I just found 911 hits instantaneously in the set of documents that are currently open in the environment, which is approximately 30. And then you can actually multi-select, multi-group. You can create multiple columns. The search interface essentially works kind of like a spreadsheet. So it really allows you to manage and massage and group and work with a lot of data. You can also tag things simultaneously. So if you are working on generating an inspection and test plan and you select a bunch of content that you found based on a certain criteria, you can tag it all at once in the search interface. So it really gives you, power tools to work with mass content in an efficient way. Another really big advantage of SpecWave, because typically a lot of mistakes and a lot of tediousness goes into doing this kind of stuff in the way that it's typically done today. Talk a little bit about templates. So the concept of template is typically quite a familiar term. In SpecWave, templates are explicitly an administrative tool. They're not captive. Once you define a template and you want to change a document, you just have to do an export to another template. And you can completely transform structure securely. So if you have a document that's based on CSI formatting and you want to go to customer formatting, or you have something that's formatted 1, 2, 3, and you want to go to something that's formatted ABC, those things are changes in formatting like that without breaking structure are very difficult in today's word processing environments. SpecWave does it seamlessly. So you can have a master template, you can have project templates, you can have client templates, and once you're in a template, you basically go into your style definitions, and here you define your style and structure. And in many ways, for people that are familiar with styles in Microsoft Word, this should be fairly familiar, although we've tried to simplify it even a bit more. And we also provide some mappings that are used during migration when you're converting content from legacy, or if you have some documents that have been corrupt, then you can also set up mappings so that it comes into SpecX in a very rigidly defined, well-formatted kind of way. We also have the tag definitions, and here's basically where you define your methodology for multipurposing documents and workflows that you want to support. Basically, any tag can be a string, a number, a decimal, or in this case, a choice. It could be multi-select, single select. So again, none of the stuff is burned into the administrator. It can basically define all of the automation attributes that are used. However, the way that the tags are defined and the way that the tags are implemented are explicitly defined in XML schemas that are published as part of the FIATech project, so that I think there's quite a bit of tie-in to other efforts that seek to standardize meta language, because we essentially define just a format and a methodology for tagging. We don't define the language. We basically say, administrator, you define your language as you wish, but these things could be further standardized and now we're talking about a new project that's actually going to work on exactly that, try to standardize the actual meta language so that it is consistent with other industries and is hopefully language and environment independent and so on. So this is the tag definition editor and templates. You can also edit headers and footers and margins. But again, this is a template option. In the world of separation of content from presentation, templates are the presentation. You define everything about how a document looks here, and then it is rigidly enforced. Once a person is working on an instance document, not a template, they cannot modify any of this stuff. So documents have a very consistent level of quality, consistent set of look and feel, and at the end of the day, SpecWave is essentially an end-to-end environment for the management, authoring, distribution, and acting on code standards and engineering specifications. So that's basically my presentation. I think I ended up talking a bit fast and actually ripped through a lot of it. So I can open it up to questions at this point.
Okay, so those of you who may, thank you, Leon, for those who joined us maybe late. If you do have any questions or comments or would like more clarification on something Leon has just shown, you can use the questions tab on your toolbar there, and we can get those to Leon and have a little bit of a conversation here. Leon, someone wants to know, what is the security model you are using?
The security model for SpecX right now is just that of the computer's OS. If a SpecX file is in a directory that is designated as read-only, we do respect the read-only attribute, and when it comes into SpecWave, you can't modify anything. But outside of that, SpecX files are just like doc files. They're just files on disk. So whatever your network's doing, whatever your administrator has set up, that's basically what we follow. That said, we do have the ability, and we have in the underlying technology of SpecWave, to actually control access on individual paragraphs. So if you have a paragraph that's owned by the electrical department, it may be read-only to the mechanical department. That level of security granularity will have to be taken care of inside the product itself. We have instrumented the data model for it, but have not provided any support in the user interface yet. So that's just something to know that's available and coming in the future.
Thanks, Leon. Can you review if cost can be added to model objects with SpecX?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Can you review if cost can be added to model objects with SpecX?
If cost, actually, quite nicely. I hope I'm answering the question. So we have this concept of feedback schedule. And feedback schedule speaks to the concept of comments, exceptions, and clarifications to specifications. And typically, when you don't comply with the spec, maybe you can with an additional cost. So I hope this is the direction that the question was meant. But when we defined the metadata for the feedback requirement tag, we went exactly after that. And I'll actually show that if you go into the details of the feedback requirement and you go into disposition, you see the options are accept with no exceptions or clarifications, accept as noted, accept with a cost edit, accept with a cost deduct, happens sometimes, or reject. I simply cannot comply with this specification. And then you can actually enter your cost impact. So this really allows somebody that's in procurement or a requisitioning engineer to work on bid tabulations and things of that nature in a very robust kind of way. So I hope that was the direction in which the question was asked. Did I answer it?
I'll let that individual let me know. Here's another question. Does SpecWave have pre-configured, ready-to-go specs for companies that don't have structure and format?
Absolutely. We deliver tools. We don't deliver content. However, we have partners. We have a reseller agreement with Arcom for the spec text content. So you can actually buy master guide construction specifications already in SpecX format to be used directly with SpecWave. And also, we typically, when we engage somebody for a pilot or a startup or something like that, we will create a template for them, which would allow them to bring in their existing documents fairly easily. But we ourselves, the Engineering Essentials company today, we're not in the business of creating actual content. That needs to come from engineers and organizations that do that.
Okay. The gentleman who had the question about cost followed up and said what you described was interesting, but his question is more related to 5D, like the model, and wondering if you can add cost to objects in a model as you're doing design build.
Very intrigued to say yes in the future. Can you please send me the question, just quick outline of what the question is and what the intended functionality might be so we could look at it. I mean, the answer is obviously no, but it sounds very intriguing, so please give me some more information. Okay.
If anyone else has some questions for Leon, he sent me his information. I will, basically he's looking at for estimating concepts, if that data would be included in your system. Really like so I can forward you his email to follow up separately.
Yeah, and I sense that immediately. It's why I said it's intriguing. We have every intention to support cost estimating and various other requisitioning and quality assurance workflows in an end-to-end productized kind of way. I mean, right now we basically provide support for those kinds of things in the specs themselves, but we're also looking to create actual modules that perform those types of workflows that do cost estimating in a progressive kind of way as specifications become more complete as projects move on. Those types of things are very much on our roadmap.
Okay. What languages is this offered in? Is it English or you have it in other languages?
Again, we don't offer content. The place where the demo file where I had a paragraph in Spanish, I used Google Translate and pasted it into a paragraph that I applied the Spanish tag to it. There's no more, no less than that. That said, our product is fully localizable and internationalizable. We haven't created any translations yet, but as we move into the international markets, we will. So, currently our product is localizable, but the only set of resources that we have is in English.
Thanks. From the technical side, what are the requirements to set this up? Servers on the server side and client side?
Practically nothing. We are trying to be very IT independent. Basically, it's a web download. You get a license key. There are 3 versions of the product. There's a master edition, a professional edition, and a standard edition with varying degrees of tools and capabilities. But in each and every case, you practically don't need any involvement from IT. It's a desktop product, for better or for worse.
Thank you. Within a project, can you have more than one type of template? For example, a specification file, an attached data sheet, and a schedule might have different templates.
That's a really good question. It's actually an upcoming development task to support multiple spec models in one file. We currently don't do that. We've had the same issue come up with supporting annexes. So if the main specifications, the numbering starts with 1, goes 1.1, then you have Appendix A, and you want that to start with A, and so on, and then you want another section that's just a data sheet, just a table or something like that. Currently we don't support that, but in the next few months we will. That's an upcoming feature that's in the pipe right now.
Okay, and this question just says concurrency control, is it handled?
Concurrency control, I need a little bit more.
All right. Is that individual would like to provide?
Yeah, if the question is about individuals overwriting each other and multiple people working in the same file, The answer is no. We are essentially a file on disk. If you have a system that allows you to do that with Microsoft Word, then you can do the same thing with our files. So typically, you would do that with a document management system that has the concept of checkout, check-in, lock, and that kind of thing. We don't support anything like that. So right now, if multiple people have the same file open and they're both hitting save, they're going to overwrite each other.
Okay, that was it. It was mistyped it concurrently, so multiple users accessing files concurrently. Yes.
Okay, so I think I answered that. But again, you know, we recommend that people use a document management system such as SharePoint or ProjectWise or something like that. Those systems provide that, so we don't need to. That's, you know, it'd be duplication of effort to create all that kind of level of concurrency machinery when it's already out there and is done very well.
Right. Okay, well, I think that is all the questions we have right now. I do want to thank you very much, Leon, for sharing your work with us this morning, and remind everyone that we are recording this, and we'll have a copy posted at viatech.org in the next couple of days. And a final reminder, I guess, for those of you who are Viatech members, our member meeting is coming up next week in San Diego, so we will be taking the Tuesday off for a webinar. And hope you can join us on the 30th. Our schedule also is on the website. And if you're a member and you haven't registered yet, it's still not too late. We still have a few rooms available and a great agenda and a full-packed agenda. So thanks again, Leon. Thanks, everyone else. Have a great week.
And thank you very much, Nicole.
Bye-bye.
And everyone. Bye-bye.